So for a very long time, my main focus hasn't been on making more money to buy things. It's been on making more money to have financial freedom and to actually buy wealth. And you would think that for someone that wants financial freedom so bad and is chasing it and is basically there already, you would think the last thing I would want in my life is more rules to follow when it comes to money. But every single day, I find myself trying to learn something new about better ways to manage my money, rules to follow to make sure I don't basically waste my money. I'm always looking for something to do to become better at what I'm doing. And by the way, this is something I also learned from a good runner called Eliud Kipchoge. He says, the people that are very successful and free in life are the people that are basically disciplined in life. When you design a life, which anyone can basically do, and you don't roam around life by default, your life ends up being a lot better. So today, I found myself on Reddit, and it's actually a page is called Financial Independence, and these people, they have over 1.6 million members and they do great work. But I found this very good idea, and it's basically 7 rules to follow when it comes to money, and that's what this video is all about. Now, whenever I say rules, I want to make sure you guys understand. Rules are things you use to help you get to your goal. Principles are things you live by. You can always live by and count on no matter what's going on. So a principle when it comes to money might mean always spend less than you make. Always look for something you enjoy first and then worry about the money second. Those are principles when it comes to money. But these little rules and tips, they help you get there a little faster and a lot better off. So you grab them, you use them, you customize them, but they're not written in stone, so you're able to actually go ahead and change them up to actually better fit you. But I don't want you guys to make the mistake of saying, hey, there's this rule, I'm gonna make a new rule, and it doesn't work for you, and then you're like, it doesn't work. No, you just changed it too much, and then that's not really flexibility, that's just changing everything in totality. Now, as always, guys, like this video, on top of that, also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified, and let's get right into it. So the very first rule is this one: fools and their money will soon be departed or parted, which basically means separated. If you're a fool and you have money, eventually that money will leave you. And I think that actually comes from the Bible in Proverbs, but overall, I always thought that the more money I made, that was gonna fix my issue. But then I realized that, guess what? It hasn't been working because I've always made more money. I've always had a minimum wage job, then I went to $10 an hour, then I went to 12, 13, and I always made more money, but it never actually did anything for me. It kind of felt like it was just wasteful. The more I got, the more I spent, and then I realized this was actually a law. It's actually called Parkinson's law, which basically says the more you make, usually the more you spend. So you gotta go against that law and say, hey, the more I make, well, the less I'm actually gonna spend because I still need the same amount. I can just grab that rest and invest it. That's the smart way to go about it. But giving somebody more of something they don't know how to use is more like wasteful. And they might change their ways, but more than often they don't. And that's why the average lottery winner in 5 years or so, they tend to lose all the money. It's why criminals, okay, they might make a bunch of money, a lot of money, and not just criminals, also lawyers and doctors and so on. They might make a lot of money, but one thing is to make money and another thing is to keep money. So my advice is, like the Bible says, seek the kingdom of God first and then everything else will come. Same thing when it comes to money. Seek to understand money first and then you worry about the amount of money you want to make. But making more money and not knowing how to handle it, it makes absolutely no sense. Like having a bucket of water and the water is basically has a big hole at the bottom. You're like, I need more water. No, you need to cover that hole. That's what you need to do, okay? Now, number 2 is you gotta understand what money is. Money isn't really as important as you probably think it is. Although that sounds kind of weird because we're making a video about money. But overall, money is just paper, which can be printed. But what it is doesn't matter. What it does matter. Money is a tool to perform transactions, to usually exchange labor for services, vice versa. And the cool thing about money is it's done in free will. You can't really force someone to take the money to do something unless, you then that's not really free market in a sense, but everything is done in free will, and you can use money not just to buy things or buy labor or buy this or buy that, but you can use money to buy freedom. And the cool thing about that is basically you can use money to make sure you never need money anymore. And that's the cool thing about it. And you do that basically by making investments and buying assets, not liabilities. So once you understand how money actually works, then everything becomes a lot more simple. So you understand money is something that's basically printed. What is defined as, though, is a method of transaction. And if I have more of it, by using the money to basically help me get to my financial wealth goal, which is basically financial freedom, I can basically get to that goal a lot faster. But using money to buy these little things, I consider myself like a adult baby, because every now and then I see this toy and I'm like, I want to buy that car, maybe that Mercedes. I think about these things, guys, okay? All the time. I'm human too. And then I'm like, it's like a 7-year-old that sees, for example, a Hot Wheel, and they're like, I want this. But for adults, it's like, oh, I want it, I can afford it, and it's my money, let me do it. Doesn't mean you should, okay? So understand what money is for. Use money for financial freedom and not to buy liabilities. Now, number 3 is money can't buy happiness. And that's actually funny, because today I actually was on Instagram and I saw Grant Cardone post this actual post, and he basically said, okay, if somebody says money can't buy happiness, they probably don't have enough money to actually give you advice on money. And the truth is that people like Warren Buffett, Jordan Peterson, people that have some money, and even I have some money too, I'll tell you this, I'll be the first one to say, money doesn't buy you happiness, okay? I have more money today than I ever had in my entire life, and I can tell you that it doesn't make me happy whatsoever. And I actually watched this TED Talk based on the study that was actually done over 100 years of people just analyzing their lives, and it basically said that when it comes down to happiness, one big part of happiness comes down to the relationships you have around you, and also spiritual, also with God and everything else. And the first of Timothy, chapter 6, verse 8 kind of says, but if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Now, I want to make sure you guys understand that, because I'm not telling you like, oh, if I have food and if I have clothing, I should be fine with that. I don't want you to be homeless, right? But once you have the basic needs basically covered, you're basically going to find out what else is missing. And you'll find out that that's not really everything in life. So when you don't have something, the human curiosity is, I want to get it to see what it's like. It's kind of like if I see my friend jump off a building and he breaks a leg, I'm like, I want to do it too, because it might be different for me, but I'm going to try it, because if he made it, it would have been so, you know what I mean? So most of the times when somebody made it somewhere and you hear this constant idea of it's not what you think it is, it won't make you happy, my main focus would never be on money itself. It would be on what am I doing, because you can be happy performing a labor that makes you feel valuable in your community or in society as a whole, and that makes a big difference. But number 1, according to research, comes down to relationships. And the study showed that once you make over $70,000 a year, making more or above that doesn't really profoundly affect your happiness level whatsoever. I'm not telling you be poor. I'm telling you, make as much as you can, but understand, make more because you love your job and you basically just do it well. But don't make more for the sake of making more, because if you think it's gonna make you happy, it's not really gonna make you happy. Just being honest. Now, number 4, beware of the Diderot effect. You probably never heard this name before, and until today, I heard this name before, but I never really paid it much mind, and I never really knew where the story actually came from. But according to Google and Reddit and Warren Buffett, this story comes from the guy that actually invented the encyclopedia, and he sold his collection or his library to some lady, and he basically got around $173,000. He was about 50-something years old, and all his life before that, he was poor. But then he bought himself a little garment, and then that garment didn't fit his house because it was poor, and he was like, I'm gonna switch up the whole house, and then he did that, and he wanted something else. The point is, usually when you buy one thing, it sends you on a spiral to buy other things. You don't believe me? Notice this, okay? If you have an iPhone, check your wrist, you probably have an Apple Watch. If you have an Apple Watch, you probably have an iPad. If you have an iPad, you probably have a laptop. These things tend to happen, especially, for example, hey, I bought a Mercedes. Now I need something to match it. My wife needs to have also Mercedes. So I need to have a nice car, a nice house, whatever. Usually, when you buy something that's expensive, it leads to other purchases. And one quote I profoundly love, and the people that Reddit actually used it, is basically Warren Buffett says, if you buy the things you don't need, eventually you'll sell the things you do need. And it makes so much sense. My point is, cover your necessities, cover the things you need, do what you need to do first. Like, once you accomplish financial freedom and you actually have it, if you want to have a nice car or a nicer house, like, that's fine, okay? It's fine to want to be comfortable, it's fine to want to drive around in a little luxury, but it's not fine to do it at a cost of what is actually needed, which is you being financially free, okay? If that makes sense, comment down below, free, so I know you made it all the way to this part of the video. Now, number 5 is avoid the lifestyle inflation trap. Now, in all honesty, I never heard the term inflation trap, but I've always seen what this actually is and actually understood it. But overall, it's the idea that more is better. It's the idea that I have a job and I want to get a raise so I can make more money, and more money can give me more freedom, but then you require more time, so you have less freedom, so you need more money. It's the cycle of just perpetuity nonsense, okay? And I've always loved this meme, which is basically, you see this young kid and he's running after some money, and then he's an adult now, he's still running after money, and then when he actually finds the money, when he actually gets all the money, he's hugging it, he realizes that he basically just got to the end of life. It's that idea of, you start off young, you care about your career, you want to get money, and you're 65 years old, you got it, you did it, now you're almost like gone, okay? So that's the point. Now, what do I recommend for that, okay? If it's not just about money and you want to avoid these inflation traps, the idea is focus again. It all comes down to financial freedom. It all comes down to having a balanced life. It all comes down to understand the destination is not the end. What you actually want to do is the journey. That's where the success is. So if you love your job, if you work in financial freedom, if you focus on the very important things in life, you're going to be a lot more happier, and you're going to be able to enjoy life for what it is, which is a good life. It's actually pretty good, honestly. I love my life because I'm able to do exactly what I like. And there's a lot of things I don't do, although I want to do. But again, the disciplined ones are the ones that are free in this life. Now, number 6 is money is not necessarily the root of all evil. I heard this before, like, oh, money is the root of all evil. The Bible says it. The Bible actually says the love of money is the root of all evil. And I can see that, because if you love money and there's so much of it, then you're probably going to do anything you possibly can to acquire more of it, which can lead you to do very stupid, dummy, scummy things. And I don't recommend that. But overall, I recommend everyone go out there and make as much money as they possibly can. So because if you're the best, for example, YouTuber, or you're the best, for example, teacher, if you're the best, for example, plumber, whatever you are, if you're the best at it, you're probably going to make a good amount of money too. And that's fine, because you're doing great at the career you actually love and you actually do. More money is not going to change you. It's not going to make you a scummy person. Overall, what it will do is it will enable you to be more of yourself. It's kind of like a key, okay? If you couldn't be that before because you were ashamed and you might get fired, well, because you have more money now, you can kind of just be more of who you are. So if you are a butt face, you'll be more of a butt face because you got more money. If you are a giver, you'll be more of a giver because you have more to give. It really does come down to being that simple. More money is not going to ruin you. It's not going to make you spoiled or anything like that. No, it's actually going to help you out a lot, honestly, okay? And it's okay to do something and to get paid and compensated for it, and it's okay to make a lot of money. Nothing bad comes from it, okay? There's a lot of good people out there with a lot of money. There's this concept that if you have a lot of money, it's going to be very hard to get into heaven and so on. Like, no, it's not really that at all, okay? I don't agree with that whatsoever. Now, number 7, the goal is not to make more money for the sake of making more money. The goal is not to make 100K a year but spend 100 hours a week working. The goal is just wealth, okay? And if you want to go beyond that because you just love your job, then that's fine. But at the end of the day, financially, monetarily, the currency, okay? Just want to use words for money or whatever. It just comes down to just wanting to build wealth. And wealth, in my definition, is not a number in your bank account. It's not having 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. It comes down to just a very simple rule. It comes down to, you have more money coming in passively than you have going out actively. And what that means is, if I can live a very good life on $2,000 a month, and I have, for example, $3,000 coming in every single month, then I'm basically wealthy. I'm financially free. I mean, that's what really matters. And the best way to get there as fast as possible is to cut out your needs by basically paying things off. So if you have no debt, well, that's less cash flow per month. If you have a paid off house, then that's less cash flow per month because that's paid off, no mortgage. And if you have investment accounts, that's money that comes in. If you have an emergency account, that's security. If you have a good job that you actually love but is secure, that's extra income, you know? So it all comes down, when I did my math and I realized that, for example, I could live here for like $2,000 a month, like a very fancy life. And that makes, for example, about $24,000 a year. If I multiply that by 25, which is basically the 4% rule, that gives me about $600,000, okay? And that's a lot of money, but it's a lot less than millions of dollars to have, for example, over 100K income a year. And because I still have a job and I love my job and I love what I do, I could still just make a bunch of money per month potentially to average that out and then just be just fine. So a lot of the times, I recommend you guys read this book. It's called The 4-Hour Workweek, and it shows you that a lot of the times, the things you actually want in life, whether it's you want to live in Mexico, you want to live in a foreign place, you just want to have a better lifestyle, you want to be able to get married, have kids, whatever you want to do. Like a lot of the times, once you put these things on paper and you analyze the actual costs and the money you actually need, if you don't do all these other things, the answer is you're probably there already and you only have to make a few changes. Like my friend, he works at Google and he bought a house and he's like, I kind of want to be a little less of all this. And I'm like, you can do it. Look at your income. What will you spend here? And he's like, I can do it. Okay. But sometimes you think you can't do something. And by the way, that's a very weird example. He works at Google, but even someone that makes, for example, $30,000 a year or 40K a year, if you're able to make that much money in another place, or for example, work on getting a little bit more money, you're actually able to get there faster. But it will take sacrifice because you're trying to do something that most people never accomplish. But it's very doable because people already did it before. And anything one man can do, many men can also do. I'll see you guys tomorrow though. Thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, comment down below money so I know you made it all the way to the end. I forgot what the other word was, so comment down below either that word or this word, but that's fine. All right, guys, love you guys so much. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. Up here, another video. Over here's my faithful subscribe. And as always, long-term team officially out.